Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. There's a new national advertising campaign for Amazon's Kindle Paperwhite that I think is really interesting evidence for how much the world has changed and how differently companies have to think about the customers that they are trying to reach. So the setup for the commercial is pretty simple. It's a resort, it's by the pool, and there's a really hot woman in a bikini, and she's on a lounge, and she's sitting next to a really good-looking guy. And the two of them are sitting there, and they're reading, and she's reading what is obviously a Kindle Paperwhite, and he's reading an iPad. And I'll tell you, she's having a much better time of it than he is, because she can read it very easily, and he's squinting because the reflection makes it impossible to read. And I'll tell you, this is the one downside to me of the iPad. I can't figure out why they haven't come up with a screen or an overlay that would make it be impossible to read it in the sunshine. You simply can't. So the two of them are there, and they're talking, and she's squinting and stuff like that, and she's explaining why hers works, and he's figuring out that he doesn't. Then he kind of scrunches over and he types in. He goes, "Okay, I'm done." And she goes, "Oh, you've done your book?" And he goes, "No, I've actually just ordered a Kindle Paperwhite." And she says, "Oh, that's great." And so he turns to her and says, "I think we should celebrate." And he appears to be putting the moves on her, and she sort of smiles and saying, "I think we should. And in fact, my husband just went to the bar and is getting me a drink." And he says with a smile, "So is mine." And they turn, and there are their husbands, two men standing by the bar getting drinks. Now, I'll put a link to the actual commercial. It's really well done. And it reveals a lot about where we are as a society today. And the thing is, in addition to the District of Columbia, there are 9 states that have legalized same-sex marriage. Now, I have no idea if all 50 states will eventually legalize it. I do think it's fair to say, based on what you see in public opinion polls and in terms of just there seems to be a kind of momentum for same-sex marriage being, legalized all over the country. But what I think this commercial does, and what experts are saying it does, is it's moving a conversation that's happening in much of America, and it's moving it mainstream by putting it right on television in a commercial, where they tend to play things safe. This is not Modern Family, right? Now, Amazon, I think, is going to get a lot of brand credibility. It's going to accrue a lot of brand equity for being sort of in the lead on this. Okay? It's got to happen. The people who are gay are going to look at this commercial and say, "Whoa, this is a company that is really not just speaking about me, but is speaking to me in a fundamental kind of way that they may not have felt that way before." And, in addition, the ad speaks to people who have no problem or no issue with same-sex marriage. And they're going to say, "Whoa, this is a company that is ahead of the game when it comes to this particular issue." And the thing is, it seems to me that Amazon's whole value proposition is about seeing the world in a different light, about seeing a different America than a lot of other retailers do. That's one reason that, when they started the company almost 20 years ago, they saw a fundamentally different marketplace than many other retailers did, and they've been proven right. So it seems to me that this commercial is right in step with the company's value proposition, which is to see things differently. And, what's the line they use about, normal just begs to be messed with. And that's against what they're doing here. It seems to me that Amazon is doing that in this commercial. Now, the company's not alone. There are other companies, Gap, Crate and Barrel, for example, that have done commercials or ads or what do you call catalogs that have had gay people in them. Okay, and then so they're not alone on this, but I think they're taking a very public position at a very interesting time in terms of the national consciousness. There may become a time, hopefully there will become a time where these ads will be so commonplace that we won't mention them. It'll be no big deal. But for right now, I think marketers have to sort of look at this ad and say, okay, what is this telling me about the way the marketplace is changing that I need to think differently in terms of the customers, my customers, and how I'm talking to them? Who are my customers really? Are they not exactly the same customers that I've been dealing with over the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years? One has to be careful not to practice epistemic closure and assume that our view of the world is exactly the way things are. Often things are not the way that we think they are. And we have to open our minds to that. For me, it makes me want to buy an Amazon Kindle Paperwhite for this summer. Not just because it'll be useful, because if I'm at the beach or at a pool, I'll actually be able to read it in the sunshine, but because I think Amazon has done a really good job of saying to me, this is a product that you want to support. And the thing is, listen, there'll be people out there, I'm sure, who are going to say, oh man, this ad is there, Amazon's talking this way about this issue, I'm never going to shop at Amazon again. I'm sure there are people like that. And then there are people like me who will go out and buy and consider buying a Paperwhite just because of it. The thing is, I'm reasonably sure at this point in history that there are more people like me than there are like them, and their numbers appear to be dwindling. And I think retailers, marketers of all kind, have to pay attention. It is good business to pay attention. Anyway, that is what is on my mind this Thursday morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.